everyone, and welcome to another edition of Legacy Building with AV. My name is Holly. My co-host is Dr. Gavin Adams. Today we have a lovely guest all the way from Portland, Oregon, um, Erin Monahan, and she's a realtor in the Portland area. So if you guys are interested, definitely make sure to look her up. We will be putting her link and information in the bio, so stay tuned. So, Erin, how are you today?
I'm really good. It's been a sunny week here in Portland and us here in the Pacific Northwest. We are so excited that the rain is finally taking a little break for now and everybody's
Yes.
working on their garden and their patio and getting outside and everybody's just a little bit nicer this week.
Oh, they're getting that vitamin D, that sunlight.
Yes. Yeah, we need
Awesome.
it.
That is awesome. So tell me, how did you become a realtor? Like, how did that come about?
That's a great question. I mean, I have had a love of real estate ever since I was a child, which sounds really funny because, I'm somebody who has kind of known the path and the direction I've wanted to go in life for a very long time, but I kind of grew up real estate adjacent. My dad was an agent when I was pretty young, and my mom worked in the corporate space, and there became a pathway or a choice my parents had to make of my mom was traveling a lot for work, working long hours. Her commute was probably 2 hours each way every day, because where we could afford to live versus where she was working, just
Hmm.
had to live a lot further away. So my dad took a break from real estate and stayed home with us and raised my sister and I and was a stay-at-home dad with us and our Uber driver for activities and sports and the chef and the housekeeper and all those things. And he was amazing. But real estate has always been around my family for a long time. My parents uh, saved every nickel they had to get their first down payment for a house, and they moved out to the boonies because that's where they could afford to live.
Yeah.
And they bought their first rental property probably when they were in their late 20s after they were first married. Ironically, that rental property is now on the market this week. They owned it for about 40 years.
No
And
way.
they're
How do
selling
you
it this week
feel?
because they've used their real estate portfolio to help them retire and to pay for this kind of phase of their life that they're in. So it's pretty awesome. But they brought me into real estate conversations pretty young. Especially when we were moving in high school, they really brought me in and I kind of got to see a little bit more about real estate, and I've been a nerd about it ever since.
Yeah.
But I didn't think I could go work for myself. I went to uh, college, I got a degree in marketing, and I thought, there's no way. I'm too young to work for myself, and I know myself. Like, I'm just not going to be ready. But maybe at some point in my life. So I ended up getting into sports marketing for about 16 years. Most recently worked for Nike for about 11 years in product development, kind of bringing product uh, to life over about a 2-year lifespan. And it was living the dream in a lot of ways. And it
I
was a
bet.
pinch myself kind of moment that's what brought me to Portland, and working for Nike was amazing. Still had a love of real estate always. Like I've been obsessing about the market for, I don't know, I've just always had an interest in it. So 2020 happened. As we all know, life shifted in big ways for many of us. And I started working from home. I was fortunate that I was able to do that with my job. And I had a moment of realization after working from home for a few months that I needed a change in my life. I had another 20 years left to work, and I was going to miss out too much on my daughter growing up and the flexibility my family needed. And I started thinking, what's my next 20 years going to be like? And
All
I
right,
made a
let's
choice.
pause there. Let's pause there
Yeah,
because you said a lot and I don't want to miss anything. So then there was something that went into the thought process of you wanting to be there to watch your child grow. A
yeah,
lot of people just think of a career and think of having to sacrifice that time or not even being a factor. Let's rewind and
yeah,
go back to the character traits, the discipline that was instilled in you by both your mom and your dad, because I think that has a lot to do with your
100%.
decision making during 2020. So when your dad made the sacrifice to be home, what did that show you about life? And when your mom would drive the 2 hours to and from work, what were some of the traits that were developed without you even realizing it when you were a young
That's
girl? And what are
that's
some
such
of
a
the
good
mistakes
question.
you made?
I think what I really learned from my parents was the value of true partnership. Um, and also, this was a time in the 80s where it was not common for men to stay at home. And so to have my dad be the only dad at field trips and all these other things, it was, saying, "Hey, we're going to make the choice that's best for my family." you know, my grandfather didn't agree. My mom's dad was like, you need to be the breadwinner, you're the man of the family. And my dad said, "No, this is what's best for my family, and I'm going to choose what's best." And I think that that has been something that has carried with me and will continue to carry with me throughout life. Of all that matters is myself, my family, and I'm going to choose what's best for my daughter. And my dad said the same thing. So watching him say, "I'm going to sacrifice this because it's the best thing for my family," and he loved it. And
Yeah.
he still always had a passion for real estate, but that was the best thing. And my mom also said, "You know what? I'm at a point in my career where my best opportunities are in this area of work, and it is a drive away, but I'm not going to uproot my family because this is where my daughters have friends, they have school, they have activities, and it's affordable." Because it was in the Bay Area, and Bay Area was not affordable then, and it's certainly not affordable now. So my parents said, "We're going to make these sacrifices, but in order to do this, we need a strong partnership in each other." And I am so fortunate that I have that same thing with my husband, who is a partner, to say, "What's the best choice for me, for my family? What do I want my life to look like? How do I want my daughter to remember me?" And my parents made that decision of how do we want our daughters to remember us? We don't want them to be in childcare if we don't have to. We have the opportunity to make this work, and we're going to try it. And it was a test period, and it ended up to be a long-term decision. So I think growing up with that really made me have the opportunity to look at my life and say, "Gosh, what do I want my daughter to remember?" And it's not me having an hour scrambling from the office to pick her up, and then we have an hour and we have to have dinner and bath and bed. And no, I want to be able to have the flexibility to where if she's into an activity that starts at 3, I can schedule my day and take her, or I can go home and do some household stuff that needs to be done. And it may mean I need to work on the weekends, but I have an amazing partner who knows that that's part of the sacrifice that comes with this career, and we're able to make it work. So watching my parents go, "Hey, we're going to make the decision that's best for our family, regardless of the noise around us," was something I needed to do as well. So I kind of grew up with that. I think that was a great question.
Can you remember any early seeds that were planted by your dad, which may have caused a lifelong love of real estate? Because
Yeah.
now that we're in the game, right?
Yeah.
One house, five houses, 50 houses. I can't see someone just walking away from something they really enjoy doing and not thinking about it. So
Yeah.
what, so can you think
And
back to
he
any?
walked away from doing the job, but he didn't at the same time because they continued to invest. And it's really special now to be able to have conversations with my dad now that I'm in the same field he was, and he's still passionate about it, which is really cool. I think one of the seeds he planted early on was, buying the worst house in the best location is like, and I still tell my clients that all the time because that really is the way to build wealth and equity. And also to say, "Hey, we're gonna we're gonna figure out how to make a down payment on this house to get this, but here's what our portfolio is going to look like, and here's how our wealth has grown over time." And a large part of that was real estate. And it's not like they had a lot of money when they bought their first house or even their rental property. They really didn't. They were making ends meet. They didn't have family money, um, or wealthy parents or anything like that. It was hard work, and they did it. And they were able to borrow from one to invest in another, and borrow from another to invest in the other. So watching that, and also watching the thought process that goes into making real estate purchases and why I was just exposed to, and it made sense for me from not just a business point of view, do the numbers work out? But then kind of imagining the long-term planning of, my mom was always really good at the interior and the design portion of real estate and being able to walk into somewhere that is the worst house and going, wow, I see the possibilities here. I see what needs to be done, what can be done. Let's do it. Let's, project manage how to get this looking good and looking like a place that people want to rent or purchase or anything like that. So I kind of got that design aspect from her. And then the business and financial and decision making when it comes to a real estate purchase a lot from my dad. So I learned a lot from both of them. And I bring a lot of that now to my real estate space as well, where I'm able to walk in and see the possibilities, but also evaluate if you put that money into this home or condo or townhouse, will it be worth it? Will you get that return of investment? So I think it's a really unique thing that I can bring in of being able to imagine, but then being able to evaluate, is it going to be worth it? And usually the answer for real estate is there's a good chance it will be, but you have to think about it as a long term.
That's so good. And that's so real. Like you definitely need to be able to see the vision when you walk in, because if not, you could walk away from a whole diamond and not
A
even know it.
100%. Yeah. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for some of my clients to realize is, hey, imagine what could be, and also know what you're taking on. It's one thing to do some paint and some updated appliances, but it's another thing to take down a wall, or if you have bad foundation or a roof that's, you have to all take it into the equation.
Very true. Very true. So becoming a real estate agent, like what was the defining moment that set you on that path?
Ooh, the defining moment was I had um so to back up, I actually, during my time at Nike, I also had a side business of doing photography, portrait photography. Side business. I am an artsy person and I did that as a side business. I'm somebody who just likes to have a lot of things going on and fulfill my passion. So that'll come into play in a minute. So doing family, wedding, maternity, all of that. And I would do that on the weekends, on the sometimes after work, but I loved it and I will always love it. So I had a couple weeks off of work in the summer of 2020 because after a certain amount of time, you get a sabbatical. So I was sitting there going, well, I'm not traveling anywhere because it was the height of the pandemic. We weren't traveling. So I decided to remodel my bathroom and I wanted to learn how to do it by myself. And did some board and batten and replacing some fixtures and all of that. And I was living at the hardware store, sitting in going to Lowe's every day and I loved it. I was so excited to transform this space and I spent a lot of time doing it. And there was one afternoon in the Lowe's parking lot where I thought, what is the thing that brings me joy in my life? And thought, gosh, the thing that brings me joy is being able to connect with my photography clients. Like I was with them through very intimate parts of their life of they got engaged and then I got to go to their wedding and I got to meet their families and then they got pregnant and I was their maternity photographer and then I got to take it's like I got to watch these families grow and I was with them during very intimate parts of their life. Being with somebody on their wedding day and just having people let you into that part of their life. But then you grow and you have this relationship with them long term. And it really was special to me. And if I looked at some of my long-term clients where I'm like, God, I treasured that so much. And when I looked at what brought me joy in life, it wasn't the corporate career, although I loved a lot of that. It was, wow, how can I get that joy back in my life? And I went, you know what? My husband and I had been talking about investing in real estate, maybe getting our first vacation rental or something like that. And I thought, what if I got my real estate? Like maybe this is the time. I got my real estate license. It'll help us if we do our own transactions. And maybe I just kind of start to do it on the side and build up a client base. And then that's sort of my exit plan from corporate life, because I had already kind of figured out that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my career. And so I came home from Lowe's and I told my husband and I said, hey, I think I'm going to get my real estate license. And he was like, okay, that was it. And he knows that I'm somebody when I have my heart set to something and I have a goal, I will stop at nothing to achieve it. Um, I get that from my mom for sure. And so he was like, okay. So I started doing the research on what it looked like to do it part-time. And then uh, October of 2020, that was August, I started looking at like meeting people. I think the best part of this job and something that's really important in being in the real estate space is connecting with people and reaching out to your network. So I reached out to my network who were in real estate for 20 years, 1 year. I wanted to know it all. Give me all the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I started to look at, okay, what is it going to take? Taking my test, all of that kind of stuff. And then in October of 2020, I got laid off. They went through a big restructuring and I got a Zoom pop up on my calendar. And then 15 minutes later, that was the end of my 11 years. And I called my agent, who was kind of like a mentor to me, who we bought and sold homes with before. And I said, hey, I talked to you about doing this part time. I'm doing it full time. When can we meet for coffee? I'm going in.
Hmm.
And that was it. And I haven't looked back. So I just knew that that was okay. Well, I'm walking away from the comfortable corporate life of a regular paycheck because I could have gotten, my resume together and gone to a similar job somewhere else. I didn't want that. So it was sitting in the Lowe's parking lot, which was a defining moment. And then somebody making that decision for me to say, here, this is what you're meant to do next. So go for it. Yeah.
That
And that
is
was
so
about
crazy. So
5 years
how
ago.
did you feel in the moment? So
Scared.
yeah,
I mean, I won't lie.
yeah. But I at the same time, it's almost like you already knew you wanted to go into real estate and they kind of like pushed you forward because you
Yeah.
had already taken the steps to acquire or learn about the space. So it was almost like I got to try something new, but scared at the same. That's awesome.
Yeah. It was, it was a little bit of anxiety, but also excitement. And just I felt fortunate that I knew what I wanted to do next. And it was going to be all on me. Um, so it was up to me to make it or break it. And I think there was a lot of freedom in that at the same time. I had to unstick myself from the corporate life I thought I wanted for a long time. I thought I wanted to like move up the chain and move up the ranks. And I started to realize that wasn't something that I wanted in my life or I needed in my life. That wasn't going to bring me the life that I wanted. So being able to say, wow, I know the direction I'm going to do, and I'm scared. Like, what if I fail? But also at the same time, is like, what if it works out? And let's just try it. And here I am. So it's, almost 5 years later. Yeah.
5 years. So in the 5 years, like, I guess what has been one of your greatest challenges with being a realtor?
That's a good question. I think that there's a very high failure rate in real estate. Most, I think 89% of agents don't make it through the first 5 years. And now that I'm in it, I can see why. I mean, you're it. You are your own boss. You are responsible for getting your own business. And there's sometimes you can be on a team where they feed you leads and you give them a portion of your sales, but I was it. I'm solo. And I think that the hardest challenge sometimes is it's full of unknowns. There's market shifts. I went from starting in, 2021 where it was just the peak of the market, the lowest interest rates on record. And now we're in a much more challenging time, a lot more unknowns. So I think there's that. There's tricky negotiations. And I think also the hard part is the emotional weight that people carry when buying a home or selling a home. There's so much emotion that goes into it. So a lot of my job too is managing that. Um, and and also I think when I first got started to realize that there's a lot of agents out there. It's an industry that's pretty crowded and it's very competitive. And I at first was intimidated by that, thinking, oh gosh, is there going to be an agent on the other end of the transaction that's going to go, hey, listen, honey, I've been doing this for 20 years. What do you know? But I have found that actually I have a great balance of my career prior to real estate that has been such an asset. I have a great marketing background. I love data and I love strategy and I love design at the same time. It's, kind of a balance of art and science. And a lot of my career prior to real estate was a balance of art and science. Um, but also, again, like being able to relate to people and connect people because, again, you're dealing with such heavy emotions and you're dealing with agents that are stressed on the other end. If you're on a buy or sell and they're on the other side, they're stressed. Again, your clients are making the biggest purchase of their lifetime. There's a lot of emotion that go into it. So a lot of times it's navigating that and how do you navigate that and how do you help people through that hard time, but also getting the job done and also being a business owner where you wear 20 different hats at the same time. I'm my own tech person and my own marketing and my own everything. So there's just a lot more to it than people realize. It's not just me opening a door and looking at pretty houses all day. It's so much more than that. Looking at houses is like a little portion of this whole little tiny piece of the whole pie. Um, but I think I have been in a place in my career that has allowed me to succeed, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for everything along the way.
I think when we come from different walks of life and then get into real estate, we're sort of at an advantage because we're able to use some of the skill sets that we've developed outside of the industry. Whereas when people don't have different walks of life, experiences from different walks of life, all they know is real estate. So you
Yeah,
don't really know how to manage the emotions of others. You don't know how to become someone's therapist and business partner,
yeah.
get them through the deal, not just getting them to the table, but
Getting them
helping
through it.
them get through the cross the finish line.
Yeah,
That takes a lot, right? When being a real estate agent, it's not just cut and dry. There's a lot
right.
to deal with, especially when you're dealing with the competition that you're dealing with. Now, you had the advantage of having a dad that had 20 plus 30 plus years experience by the time you get into it, whereas like someone who's a newbie during that time during the pandemic who just wants to get into it because they've been watching Bigger Pockets or the real estate investing podcast, they're like, oh, all right, let's do this, and then it's like a whirlwind of trouble, whereas you're like, oh, I'm familiar with this, I see my dad handle this way, or you know what? I can just do some research. Let me look into this neighborhood. Let me analyze the data. Oh no, this
Right.
is why it's worth the investment. This is why it's not. I wanted to ask what your experience. I would like to ask what your experience was like during that time because that was a time where real estate was the craze, right?
Oh, wow,
Like,
gosh. Yeah.
and not only that time was everyone in the nation getting it, wanting to become a real estate agent, but your market was like set on fire during that time
Yeah.
because now you're hearing the Brandon Turners talk about the Northwestern market, how beneficial it may be. For those who don't know, Brandon Turner was a podcast host on Bigger Pockets
Okay.
podcast. So, and then he was in the Seattle area, but then a lot of people started getting into the Portland area as well. So that region pretty much got sparked on fire
Yeah.
because people were going north from California where they weren't able to afford, right? So they're
Right.
going north,
Yep.
they're
Exactly.
leaving the Bay Area, they're leaving San Diego,
Yep.
right? They're leaving Silicon Valley and they're
Yep.
wanting to get into these more affordable towns. So something very similar happened in the Northeast, whereas we had money leaving New York City and Boston, Massachusetts, settling into Connecticut and Rhode Island. So, what
Okay.
were some of your challenges or just experiences when it came to being in the market at that time during such a craze?
Yeah, that's a great question. It was interesting during that time. You did see a lot of people that were just getting into it, and I was one of them. It just happened to be that time that I fell into it, not because, oh, look, everybody's buying a house. I want a piece of this pie too. Um, My experience is actually now more reflective now that we're past that part because I have seen a lot of people drop out of that market that became agents during that time and maybe did pretty well, but I think relied on the market and not thinking of the business holistically. And it's, some people have started during that time and are doing amazing and incredible stuff now. And I will say, yes, I had a dad that was real estate adjacent for a long time, but the most important thing for me was my small little photography business. I learned how to sort of build that business and the importance of not just relying on word of mouth, or just being like, oh, somebody's going to contact and reach out to me to buy a house. No, I need to go after that business and also set myself up well for an online presence and create my own marketing and get my name out there because now the market has changed completely where people are like, I'm not going to sell my house because I sit on a really comfortable interest rate and mortgage payment. It's too expensive for me to buy now, and wages haven't kept up. So it is uh a lot more challenging in that way, but I will say I've been steady in my business because of some of the things I put in place, even when the market was bananas. Not just like being able to see that picture going, okay, well, real estate has ups and downs. This market, it can't carry on forever. What are the things I need to put in place now so that I can succeed when the market changes? And being able to know how to do that from a marketing perspective has been really helpful, but also being able to know how to run my business. People don't realize sometimes how, you know, if you realistic, like you need money to run a business. And if you're not bringing in money, you're going to go through that money really, really quickly. And I think that sometimes too, where people go, I can't afford to keep up the membership dues for the National Association of Realtors and access to my MLS and keeping my website up to date and all of these things. If you're not bringing in money, then you can't afford to do it. So that, I understand why the dropout rate is as high as it is. But because of that, where it was almost like you can throw a coin and there was a realtor nearby that would help you buy that house and you just wanted it because it was more, I would say, affordable, but at the same time, like people were going 100, 150, $200,000 over an asking price. So affordable is relative. Um, and now it just looks a lot different. And I think you have to treat your business as like a long-term thing versus like, I'm going to capitalize on this money right now. I don't know if that helped answer your question, but hopefully it did.
It did, it did. I had another question. I heard that the Realtors Association changed the way that realtors are allowed to commission the
Mhm.
deal, where
Yeah.
they have to basically negotiate their own prices versus it being like a set price that they just split down the middle.
Yep.
Do you feel like that made it harder for realtors, or is it a convenience being able to negotiate your own deal and your own rate?
Yeah. That's such a good question. And something that I think was really a scary change at first as to, oh my gosh, how is this going to change things? And ultimately, I think as long as you are able to effectively communicate your value, as a buyer's agent, because now you need to enter into an agreement, a working service contract with your agent before you go look at a house. And I am glad that's in place actually, because it outlines the expectations for me as your agent, you as my client. Here's my fee. I don't do this for free. And here's how we're gonna, here's you're on the hook to pay for it, but here are some options. We can ask for it to be negotiated in the offer. You can pay me out of pocket. Let's talk about this up front. And it's interesting that that was never really in place since buyer's agents came around in the 1990s, which most people don't realize. There used to be one agent that was on both sides of the transaction. And that started to realize where people are like, that doesn't seem fair. I feel like this agent is not representing me truly and fairly. So buyer's agents came about in the 90s. And there was never really a working contract in place. So it's any other profession, if I hire a contractor, they say, here's what it's going to cost. and here's what it's going to, be to work with me. Sign this agreement so we can both work together. What other feel do you have that you're somebody's going to work for you, but not outline that? So I think as long as you can effectively communicate, hey, this is the value I'm bringing to you. I'm not just here to open a door. I'm not just here to send you Redfin listings. I'm here to be your project manager throughout this whole process. And here's the value that I bring. It really helps the conversation. And I think if somebody can't communicate that effectively, they're going to feel that. But if they can, buyers are going to see the value of having a professional who's going to help guide them through this whole process. And they're going to be able to sign that, and you're going to enter into a much better working relationship because of the transparency up front.
That's good. So I guess my follow-up questions do so now with that new rule, do let's say you find someone who's looking for a home, let's say they end up not finding a home, do they
Yeah.
still pay you or
It's a good
is it
question. That's something that's outlined up front, and we go over at our first consultation, and outline what that might be. Some agents say, hey, if you decide not to buy a house or you decide to terminate this contract early, here's the fee for doing that. Some agents choose not to. It's really about the agreement you have with your agent up front. Those are discussions we have, and it's really unique to every transaction and every buyer.
That's good. That's good. That's real good because I know I've interviewed other agents where they've told us that some people will be like super excited about buying a house and then
Yeah,
they ghost them. So the fact that you
totally.
guys have like a contract in place that kind of outlines what is expected of each party is awesome. So I feel like that's
Yeah.
a win for everyone in the
Yeah.
industry, both the buyers and the realtors that are assisting them, because you want someone that's actually going to pick up your phone calls, help you like find your
Yeah.
house, and vice
Absolutely.
versa. You don't want to be working for someone and then they just disappear.
Yeah, and that is, prior to this going in place, that had happened before to me. And it's frustrating to spend so much time and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, they ghosted me and they just got in contract with somebody else. And it is part of what comes with the territory, but it's nice now to say, hey, let's enter into an agreement and here, let's talk about what that means. And again, it's one more thing to negotiate. And if I'm not good at negotiating that, then I'm not going to be a good person to negotiate, the largest transaction of your life. So I think good negotiation skills, being able to effectively communicate, and being able to have hard conversations all are things that make an agent successful.
That is true. Um, so when you're speaking to a client, how do you know whether or not the relationship or the partnership is going to be good for you? Like, is there ever a time when you meet a client, you're like, oh no, I can't work with you?
Yeah, let's sometimes there are some things that I pay attention to. Maybe it's because I learned the hard way. A lot of my business does come through referrals, which I think is really amazing. I am so grateful for my past clients who have passed my name along, and I think that is helpful because you already go in with a little bit of trust with the
Mm,
client versus starting from scratch where it's like we don't know each other. Maybe there's already a little bit of distrust within the industry. I'm able to pick up on some clues and some cues along the way where I go, I'm not sure I'm going to be the best fit for you. And I, you have to learn to trust yourself in that and go, I want to attract the business that is going to uh, fulfill me and be a good fit for me. And if it's not, I need to be okay with letting that go. And I'm going to be better for it in the long run. And it took me a little while to learn that in this business. But I feel so much better served by it now. And, I also know that I'm not going to be the real estate agent for everybody. There's a lot of us. And I also need to be okay with that, where if we're going to work together, I want you to choose me. I never want anybody to feel forced by any means, but I may not be the agent for everybody, and that's okay too.
that's good. That's true. That's true. There's someone for everyone out there. You just have
There
to do
is.
your
Yep,
research, ask the
absolutely.
question. Um, So how do you define success, and has that definition changed over time?
Ah, that's a good question. I think that, kind of starting with the second half of that question, it definitely has changed over time. I think when I look back on the career and the corporate career, because I was also the kid that wanted to work in a cubicle. Like, what kid wants to work in a cubicle? Like, I I don't know. But I looked up to my mom a lot. My mom worked in a corporate setting and she traveled a lot for work. And I was like, gosh, I love my mom. I've learned so much from her. And my mom's a badass in a lot of ways. She broke a lot of glass ceilings as a woman in this corporate space. And so I looked at that and I laugh about it, but I'm like, it's because I was looking up to my mom. Where I also looked at it as success was, being this job title in this part of the business. And, I have to be a senior director by this age, or I need to be, in this like glamorous part of the company at this age, and kind of climbing those ladders and hitting big numbers. And again, in 2020, I just had this moment where that changed for me. And now my idea of success and how I define success is about the impact I make. And, whether it's helping somebody move across the country, if I'm helping somebody that's out of town and helping them get settled into a new area and a new state and feel at home and feel so good, getting a nervous first time home buyer through a really stressful process and they're like are ready to cry tears of happiness at the end, and being able to be like, oh my gosh, this is the start of your financial portfolio. Like, oh, it's so rewarding. I love that. Or helping a seller prep their house so that they get multiple offers and, changing their financial trajectory. I think it's, for me, success looks like when somebody says, you know what, you saw me and you helped me make a hard and stressful thing easier and you made a difference. And so to me, that's my idea of how I define success.
That's good. I love that. I love that. So, what impact do you hope to leave behind, and how are you actively building your legacy?
Ooh, I think for me, I really want to make real estate more human, more personal, more ethical, more inclusive. And, again, I love working with clients, whatever their budget is, whether they're, first time home buyer, I can, on a low budget, a one bedroom condo, or somebody that's, $1 million plus. Like I want to be able to make that human side and not just, okay, you're just a number, you're just a transaction, you're just somebody to add to my sales numbers for the year. I think, by building that, and also building my legacy by being really involved in my community. I'm involved in a couple organizations in my city in Beaverton, Oregon, which is a suburb right outside of Portland. By mentoring clients and also mentoring other agents, which I really I have a lot of passion for. And, just every client I serve is really part of that legacy, and every neighbor I help and every story I tell. And, also having my daughter witness me working and being able to be there for her, but also having her see my passion, because I am very passionate about my career in real estate. And I want her to see that you can have a career that you love and that makes a difference and that you can feel really good about. That's exciting too. And she sometimes has to come to work with me because that's just how our day is structured. And
Yeah.
uh it's cute to see her kind of learn about what I do. And I also want to teach her a lot about financial independence and how, home buying can be a part of that. So, I kind of want to carry on that next little legacy that my dad and mom did for me to help my daughter. And it's really, it's incredibly rewarding to me.
That is rewarding. It sounds like you have a heart to serve, like
Yeah, I do. I
impacting your
definitely do.
community. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That is super awesome. So what advice would you give to someone who is struggling to take the first step towards their passion?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, just start, even if it's messy, even if you don't know, have a long-term plan of just like, It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all figured out, but I think the most important thing is to have a passion, because that's going to help you through the really hard times because they're just that'll happen. Hard times will happen. And just taking that first step, um, leveraging your network of people. And your network is not like a business formal network. It's like your friends, your family members. And also I think an important first step is have your little circle of cheerleaders around you who are going to lift you up and cheer you on. And, they're gonna help keep you going when it is tough or you're not sure what that next step is going to be or you're scared to fail. Always have those people near you who are going to do that for you. And that for me has been invaluable throughout this whole process.
That is
To start.
important. Your network is your net worth. Like they could
Yep.
really help elevate you to the next level, build you up. Like that's awesome. Like you
Yeah.
really do need people to be successful. And the more you serve others, the more you grow. So
Yeah,
that is awesome.
absolutely.
That
So I
is
think it's really interesting that you're like the perfect storm, the perfect combination of both your mom and dad,
Yeah.
right? With serving corporate America and then also having the real estate skill set, right?
Yeah.
I'm wondering what it's like for your daughter to watch mom, right? Because it's one thing to learn two different skill sets from two different people, but like mom is very versatile. You have a lot of tools in your toolbox. So I'm wondering
Yeah.
what the experience is like for her. I don't know if that's a question, if there's any answers. It's just a noticing.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I don't know, and it's so fun. She's going to be 8, and it's just so fun to watch her figure things out. She calls me a real estater. I'm not just a real estate agent, it's a real estater. I'm real estating. But she has definitely an artsy creative side, but she's also very analytical. She's definitely a blend of art and science in her own little way, which is really cool. And I'm just excited to see where she's going to go in life. And, I think she'll always have a passion just like me for creativity in art and design. But even in her preschool, I think one of her preschool teachers said, that girl is future CEO energy.
okay.
Well, that's
And
good.
I think every teacher afterwards would agree.
Hopefully, at some point down the line, she's able to review this interview and learn something more or gain some more insight about her mom and her grandparents.
Yeah, I hope so too. I hope so too. She comes from a long line of strong women on both sides, my husband's side and my side as well. So pretty awesome.
That is beautiful. So if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be and why?
Ooh. Um, I think I'd love that I made people feel seen and supported. Whether it's through real estate or activism or just being a good neighbor and a good friend. I want people to know that I showed up with heart. I made things easier when they were hard, and I helped them feel at home, in a lot of different ways, not just getting them in a home, but helping them feel comfortable in the space, showing up as they are.
That's beautiful. I love that. And I guess with that, we're wrapping up. Thank you so much to everyone that joined to watch this episode. Thank you, Erin, for joining us today. Like we've been enjoyed your story and just hearing you speak. It's been beautiful. Just hearing like your heart to serve and your willingness to make sure you're helping your clients be successful in their endeavors of home ownership, or in your community has been awesome. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
And
you to
that's
both of
it.
you. Yeah, and great questions. Made me think for sure.
And that's a
Before,
wrap, guys.
before signing off, do you want to highlight where people can find you, your social media handle, where they can
Yeah,
reach out to you if they're interested in purchasing a home? You did mention
absolutely.
Portland, Oregon, but you're also going to be getting into the Seattle, Washington, read
Yeah.
area as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm in Portland, Oregon. I serve the Portland metro area. I also do some Worked out at the Oregon coast. There are certain territories I will cover out there. I've helped a number of investors purchase homes out there. I work from everybody from first-time home buyers to investors. I also will be getting my Washington license. So if you are looking in the Southwest Washington area, I also have a great network of agents throughout the country. So if you're looking for somebody similar to me, but in a different market, please reach out and I can help kind of play matchmaker there. So you can find me on Instagram at Hello Home by Erin. That is my Instagram handle. I'm there. You can reach out to me there. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Erin Monahan, and you can reach me at Erin at hellohomebyerin.com. So shoot me an email. My website is hellohomebyerin.com. So say
I
hi.
love that. Yes, guys, definitely go and say hi. And one more question that I almost forgot. So, I guess for realtors, what's the next step? Like you're helping people buy the homes, you're expanding into Washington. Is there a broker license coming in your future? Like,
I
what's that?
don't know. I actually have really enjoyed just working for myself. I may uh at some point it'd be interesting to have a partnership with another agent in my office or maybe a couple of us where, we can kind of grow our territories together. I also in a perfect world, I always have this design aspect, being able to offer some sort of portfolio review or real estate review of, okay, you bought this home. Now, how do we improve on this and build your equity? So I can walk in and say, you're thinking about a kitchen remodel. Let's talk about what that might look like. I can bring in designers, but let me figure out what's going to be that financial impact for you if you're going to make this. And you don't want to overspend, but you want to do it right. Let's think about when you go to sell, what are going to be the most important things that a buyer's going to like, and helping my clients kind of walk through and offering that maybe as a separate service, because that's one area where I am really good about and knowing and can kind of help bring that because I find a lot of people struggle with, I have this home and I want to improve it, but I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. And I'm like, well, that's where I come in. So who knows? I
That's
could be expanding my
good.
services there.
Yeah, that sounds real good. I think people really do need that because sometimes when you're a first-time home buyer, you're going into it blindly. Like you're just like, oh, well, I like this black chest. I like this. And you overspend and it's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
that's not really
Yeah.
gonna
I
help
think, yeah, I also find that a lot of people will end up doing those projects that they've been meaning to do the whole time they've owned, but they don't do them until right before they sell the home. And it's like, hey, if you're going to be here for 5 or 10 years, let's think about how you can enjoy some of those updates now,
you.
or what's important to do now versus wait. Um, let's put a plan together and let's figure out also how are we going to pay for those? I have some great lenders. Maybe it's taking out a home equity line of credit to take care of those. So thinking about it from a financial, but also a design and an impactful living way as well.
That's so good. That's so good. I'm excited. I'm excited for everyone that reaches out and works with you because they're gonna be handheld. They're gonna be supported along the
Yeah,
whole way, and that's exciting.
totally.
That's
Yeah.
good. That
Yeah.
is so awesome.
So you're
Thank,
the first interviewee from that region. So we definitely appreciate your presence and
thank
your
you.
willingness to interview because now we can open the doors or the thought process for all throughout the nation who've never considered the Northwestern Territory.
Pretty beautiful out here. Rains a lot, but it's spring is popping. Like it's just like this time of year is gorgeous. And I lived in California for 28 years, gorgeous state, but there is just nowhere like the Northwest, I tell you. It is jaw-droppingly beautiful up here.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah.
That's
So,
probably a place where we need to start looking into, huh,
yeah, let's
guys?
chat. Come check it out and look me up and I'll take you out to some. Portland is like a foodie city.
Oh, if you want us over with just that alone, then.
Yeah, it is we get spoiled here with our food, let me tell you.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
good. So is it mostly like what is like do you guys have a little bit of everything or
Food wise?
yeah.
Oh yeah, we have a little bit of everything. I mean, I think the Portland area consistently has chefs that are nominated for some of the best chefs in the country, some of the best restaurants. pretty eclectic mix of cuisine out here, which is really
I'm a
awesome.
foodie, so you're speaking
Yeah.
my language.
Yeah.
I mean, one time we traveled to Chicago just to go to Alinea. I don't know if you heard that,
Oh
but
yeah, I
look, it
have.
was so
That's on my bucket
good.
list.
You should definitely try it. It's really good. Like the
Cool.
ending is like this whole table of ice cream, but it's so beautiful that you
Oh,
don't
I
even want
bet.
to eat
Yeah, it's an
it.
art, right?
Yes, it was. It
Yeah,
was.
that's
So if
awesome.
it's like that, I'm into it. Like,
Yeah,
ooh.
it is. Yeah, we have a lot. We're known for food carts, which is funny, but you'll find some of the best like food at some of the food carts out here. But then you also have phenomenal restaurants that take months to get into.
I
Oh, you
bet.
know all about that.
Yep.
We do, we do. We definitely had to plan in advance for that trip.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, so I guess that's it. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it so much. Um, yes, we did that. We are
Thank
over
you.
time, so we don't want to take more of your time. So thank you so much for
It
allowing
was
us to
awesome to be
interview
here.
you. Yes, and we will send you an email once we are posting it, so you can share it. We'll be
Awesome.
sharing it on our socials as well. So thank you so much
Fantastic.
for your time.
You're welcome. It was great to meet you both. And Dr. Gavin, great to hear your story as well.
Thank you.
It's awesome. You're building quite a legacy yourself. So
I
congrats.
appreciate it.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.